Alright guys, I've been trying to make this for so long. This is an angry video. This is another rant. Full range of motion motherfuckers. Every time I put a video up and I'm doing my regular, bicep 21s, whatever. Oh, Jonathan, like Chris calls them, the hippie voices. Oh, maybe you should get a full stretch. You should get a da-da-da. As if I don't know what I'm doing, right? And time again, I told people, guys, number one, you cannot do full range of motion of a muscle, especially like biceps, in one exercise. Why? Because a fully stretched bicep is back here, right? And a fully contracted bicep is not here, it's up here. Right? So, just look up physiology, look up Man by Chris videos, explain that shit. There's no fucking machine out there or dumbbell that allows you to go. That's fucking stupid. That's fucking stupid, right? So if you want to measure full range of motion, make sure you mean full range of motion, which is not gonna happen. That's one. So if you're thinking about doing this, you're doing a full range of motion, you're not. You're not getting a full stretch because you're not back here. That's what the bicep does. It stretches, the humerus all the way back here. And it's not a full contraction because it's not up here. In order to do that, you have to break up your bicep exercises into at least 3 or 4. That's why I do incline bicep curls when I'm inclined. And my humerus is back here. It activates the long head. That's why I do standing, right? Or preacher curls. And that's why I do those that you see me doing a lot. And that's why I also do the fucking cross cable curls. This is why I'm hitting every area of my bicep. Is that necessary? Obviously not. You can build great biceps doing just 2 movements, right? Maybe just that and probably preacher curls, right? As long as you stretching and contracting one way or another. As long as you're putting tension on the muscle. I don't like saying stretching and contracting because, like I said, people get it wrong. Like I said, unless you want to do this shit, right? That's number one. Number 2 is people forget that tension builds muscle, not necessarily perfect form exercises. Your body doesn't know perfect form. Your body's made to move and grab shit and push shit, right? Your body's not gonna say, well, you're not, if you're trying to fall from a cliff, your legs are engaged to get you to come up, right? Your body doesn't get, no, you have to go underhand or you have to go wide and do this. No, your muscle's gonna contract, and if you do that every fucking day, if somehow you fall off a cliff every day, you try to climb that shit, your legs are gonna grow, right? Obviously, I'm exaggerating, but that's what I'm trying to make. Another example, look at deadlifts, right? Everyone who deadlifts heavy knows it builds great traps, right? Except for me. So powerlifters, powerlifters, great traps. Olympic lifters have to deadlift their weight and then clean that shit, whatever. And they'll tell you it builds traps. You can just look at them, right? And a lot of people will agree. Go to any forum. Hey, how do you build great traps? I'll tell you deadlift, deadlift, deadlift. Now, when you deadlift, even though it builds the upper traps, you do not shrug your upper trap, right? The full range of motion of the upper traps is doing this or, retraction. When you deadlift, you're just stretching the fuck out that muscle and you coming up and you retracting your scapula as you're supposed to. But you're not shrugging, yet it builds great traps. Just that tension on the traps makes it grow. So what's another example? And like I said before, nobody shrugs and does this. It's an exercise, people call it deadlift shrug, but nobody really does that, right? Yet it still works. Farmer walks. Farmer walks, you grab heavy dumbbells and walk, right? People know, number one, it builds great traps because it stretches the shit out of your upper traps. Even though you're not contracting, you have an isometric contraction happening as your traps try to keep your arm attached to your fucking body, if you get what I mean. Number 2, it builds great forearms. As any strongman competitor who trained in farmer walks, he has huge forearms without doing wrist curls. Not saying they don't work, but farmer walks build forearms without having a fucking full range of motion. Nobody farmer walks like this. Nobody does that shit. You just grab the dumbbell and walk, but yet it builds great. It gives you strength and hypertrophy in the forearms. There's no full range of motion. It's another example. The guy from Thailand that I always talk about, the guy that built huge traps. You guys know I'm always looking at traps. He built huge traps by grabbing 2 buckets of water because they were too poor and low budget. I thought I was low budget. He grabbed 2 heavy buckets and walked up and down a hill. I think it was like the length of 2 football fields for years. And his traps just grew and the rest of his body just stayed little, right? And because he just kept that tension on there, he never shrugged, just walked. He called it static shrug walk, some shit. Where he just kept walking up and down. Great traps. No contraction, no full range of motion. So another exercise. Indonesia. I mentioned in my other video with the guy that would go up on top of a mountain to grab sulfur and bring it down. They had to put the 2 heavy bags on the log or the stake or whatever you want to call it, like a barbell, wooden barbell, and place it on their back as if you're squatting. And they would walk around with that shit for miles up and down the mountain, right? And all these guys had huge straps. Just from the fucking bar being on their traps for so long. The tension on the traps caused it to grow. They were not walking like this on the fucking mountain. They were just doing this. Constant tension made the muscle grow, not full range of motion. Another example, gymnasts. I mentioned gymnasts. They always have to keep their triceps flexed at all times when they're doing their exercises. And when they're training the triceps, they don't actually do dips. They actually stay stationary. And it builds great triceps. Look at any gymnast, huge triceps. People that do that belly dancing shit, whatever you call it, they're always on their calves, right? And they stay there for a long time. It's not really a full range of motion on their calves, yet they build great calves just by being in that peak contraction for so long. You have 21s. Everybody knows 21s build great biceps. When you grab the barbell, you do 7 at the bottom, 7 at the top, and 7 full range of motion, right? That builds great biceps, but it's partial reps mainly until the last part when you do full reps. There's so many examples. You have this disease called muscle dystonia, I think. Oh shit, I hope it's still playing. Yeah. You have this disease called muscle dystonia where I think it's muscle dystonia, where they have your brain sends signals to your body to contract without you actually doing it. So they end up looking all twisted and shit because their tricep will contract, their fucking right pec will contract, and they're all fucking twisted, right, for long periods of time because their body's all fucked up like that. God bless their soul. And most of the guys that have their arms, twisted because their tricep is contracting all day long. I saw a documentary, they were fucking jacked. One of these guys had his right arm was contracted all the time, so his right arm was fucking huge. Like right here, you see the whole fucking horseshoe. And even the guy who's doing the documentary with the Morgan Freeman voice motherfucker was like, as you guys could notice, they all display a great degree of muscularity or some shit. Even though it's not about a documentary, but he's explaining how no one could overlook the fact that they were jacked. When they took their shirts off, the guy that was twisted like that, had the shoes pecs. Why? Because they're not doing this all day. They're just like that. But it's but it's contracted. So the tension is on the muscle. Even though there's no full range of motion, they're not doing this, right? So there's so many examples. If after all these examples, you still think that you need a full range of motion to build biceps or whatever, you're wrong. I mentioned the gorillas. Watch the gorilla video when I explain why gorillas have huge chests and explain how they're always walking like this, like doing walking push-ups on their knuckles. It's like doing dips or deep. Alright guys, so that pretty much concludes that video. It got cut up because it was too long. And this is part 2. I'm making a part 2 to it like a month later. I completely forgot about it. But yeah, man, if you don't believe me, look at all the examples. Look at all the examples I listed. And you go out there and try to answer those questions. You ask any biology professor, anyone who studies anatomy and physiology for a living. And they'll tell you that there are numerous cases where muscles grew outside of full contractions, like just isometric contractions, tension on the muscle, all these things cause it to grow, right? It doesn't have to be a full contraction or a full stretch. But yeah, like I said, go back and look at the examples I listed and you draw your own conclusion. Now, what am I saying? Am I saying everybody should stop doing full range of motion? Hell no, that's not what I'm saying. I'm just trying to get you guys to understand the principles so you stop being form police hippie motherfuckers and judge everybody's fucking form when obviously it's working for them, Now obviously if you are training for strength, then you must do full range of motion. I mean that's a given. If you're just training for hypertrophy, then you do not have to. What you could do is, like I said, you could break up your workouts into different angles of the full range of motion of that exercise. Kind of explain it with biceps, triceps, chest, whatever. You could break it up into different segments of the full range of motion and hit it there. And obviously, I guarantee you, some fun police motherfuckers in the gym is gonna walk up to you and say, "Hey, you're not doing it right." There's nothing I hate more than those motherfuckers who think there's only one way to get to Rome, right? Many roads lead to Rome. All right, guys, the video is way longer than I expected. Obviously, a lot of people are gonna be butthurt about it, but I don't give a fuck. Like I said, if I did care, a lot of my videos will not even be uploaded on YouTube. I'm just gonna put the truth out there. So don't be afraid to do partial reps. Don't be afraid to do isometric contractions. Don't be afraid to try all that shit, right? Until you figure out what works for you. The worst thing you want to be is stuck in a box where you're doing exactly what everybody else is doing forever and ever and ever and ever. People say, "Oh, don't try to reinvent the wheel." The reason why the wheel was invented is because some motherfucker was not happy with the shit they had back then. All right, so sometimes you gotta reinvent shit. Anyway, I'm out of here, guys. All right, guys, what's up? Now I know you're looking confused, kind of like, what's this video all about? We're looking like a burnt version of the Hodge twins right now. But anyway, I want to tell you guys, I inbox a lot of my subscribers. A lot of you guys have been with me from the beginning, and you guys message me a lot, and we have conversations on Facebook, whatever. And sometimes I forget that I'm